Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the chemistry online class once again. In the last lecture I had started with the lesson 7, hydrogen, in which I have taken up the preparation of hydrogen by electrolysis of water. I had told you about the process of electrolysis, electrolytes, the types of electrolytes, electrodes. Today I will explain the methods of preparation of hydrogen by different methods. So, hydrogen was discovered by Henry Cavendish and named later on by Lavoisier. Then hydrogen occurs in the free state as well as in the combined state, and the free state, it is the most abundant element in the universe, but its percentage is very small on the Earth's crust. But in the combined form, that is in the free state, the percentage is very small, but in the combined state is much more, that is especially the compound water H2O makes up about 70% of the Earth's surface. Then there are other compounds like HCl, H2SO4, H3PO4, NOH, then various organic compounds, all these are composed of hydrogen. Then I had told you about the preparation of hydrogen, that is, it takes place by the electrolysis of water, by the action of water and acids on metals. Then I had not taken up all the three methods. I will tell you about these methods today. So, what is electrolysis? Electrolysis is the decomposition of an electrolyte, or it is the decomposition of a compound in its aqueous or molten form by the passage of electricity. Then electrolyte, it is a substance in aqueous or molten form which dissociates into ion and can conduct heat and electricity. This I have told you. I have told you about the ions, that the ions electrically charge atoms or groups of atoms, and when an atom loses electron, it becomes a positively charged ion, and these positively charged ions are known as cations. For example, sodium plus or potassium, the various metallic ions or metal ions. Then when an atom gains electron, it becomes a negatively charged ion, and these negatively charged ions are called anions. And the examples are chloride, various non-metallic ions, and various other radicals that are there. Electrolyte, I have just told you that it is a chemical compound that conducts electricity by dissociating into ions when dissolved into a solvent. Then strong electrolytes and weak electrolytes, that is, the strong electrolytes are basically the substances that dissociate completely into the ions in an aqueous solution, and the weak ones do not dissociate completely into the ions in an aqueous solution. Now, the various examples are there. Strong electrolytes are sodium chloride, hydrochloric acid, that is the various acids and bases. Strong acids and bases are basically strong electrolytes, while comparing them to the weak acids and bases, which are weak electrolytes, that is, they do not completely dissociate into ions. Then I told you about the non-electrolytes. Non-electrolytes are chemical compounds that do not dissociate into ions when dissolved in a solvent, and they do not conduct electricity just because they do not dissociate into ions. Example are sugar, glucose, urea, alcohol, sulfur, wood, naphthalene, so on. Then electrodes, they are the conducting rods or plates through which current enters or leaves the electrolytes, and these electrodes are of two types, that is basically the anode and the cathode. So, anode and the cathode, that is the electrode connected to the negative terminal of the cell or battery, is called the cathode. You can see this is connected to the negative. This is the battery, this is the power supply through which current enters, and this is basically the negative terminal, and this is connected to the cathode, while the electrode connected to the positive terminal of the cell, you can see in this, is the anode. Is that clear? Now, these are the two electrodes, anode and cathode. Now today we will proceed on further. What is an electrolytic cell? Now this, in the figure you can see the electrolytic cell, or this is also called as the voltmeter. Now a glass, it can be a glass or a plastic container which has two electrodes. These conducting poles through which current will enter and leave is called the electrolytic cell or voltmeter. Is that clear? Then the process of electrolysis is carried out in this particular cell. It cannot be carried out anywhere, but the particular cell or particular container in which it has to be carried out should be of glass or a plastic container it should be. Then what is happening is that how does this process take place? When electrolyte dissolves in water, that is by the passage of electricity, that is when the current is going to enter from here, then what will happen, that this is sodium chloride solution. Is it clear? This is sodium chloride which is dissolved in water. As soon as the current passes, this splits up into sodium plus and chloride ion, that is into anions and cations. And this process of splitting up into ions is known as ionization. This is known as ionization. Is it clear? Next is that when current passes through the electrolyte, what is happening is these ions move towards oppositely charged electrodes. That is, the negatively charged ions will move towards the positive electrode, and the positively charged ion will move towards the negative electrodes. Is it clear? So they move towards the oppositely charged electrodes. So electrolyte conducts electricity to the movement of these ions. So how is this electrolyte conducting the electricity? How is the process of electrolysis taking place? Just because the splitting up into ions, this movement of ions is allowing the movement of electricity. Is that clear? That means if you leave it as such only, you put wooden blocks instead of these anode and cathode, there will be no passage of electricity. That means this is also wood and this is of plastic. If suppose you start this battery, there will be no passage of electricity through these if they are made of wood or plastic. But if only when they are made of graphite or any other metal, then only the process will take place, otherwise it will not take place. Is that clear? So electrolysis of water takes place in a different apparatus. This apparatus is shown here. So you can see that this is a container in which there is an electrolyte. This is water in which a few drops of an acid is there. That is known as, this water is known as acidulated water. Few drops of sulfuric acid, so to make it a good conductor of electricity. Otherwise the water is a poor conductor of electricity. To make it a good conductor of electricity, we add a few drops of sulfuric acid to it. Is that clear? So when electric current passes through this acidulated water, water molecule dissociates. That means it dissociates, means it splits up. H2O splits up into into H2 and O2. Is that clear? These two gases. And how is it happening? You can see that when water molecule dissociate into hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions. So what is exactly happening is, when electric current is passed through it, it splits up into H plus and O2 minus. Is it clear? These are the ions. So hydrogen ion move towards the cathode. So hydrogen ions move towards this cathode, and the oxygen ion move towards the anode. Is that clear? So hydrogen ion move towards the cathode and the hydrogen gases evolved over here. It is discharged over here, and hydrogen and oxygen are collected at cathode, that is the negative electrode, and oxygen gas is collected at the positive electrode in the ratio 2:1, which you can see in the its formula H2O, that is 2 volumes of hydrogen and 1 volume of oxygen. Is it clear? So this is the electrolysis of water, And hydrogen fuel is produced by electrolysis of water, and it is considered to be the future fuel because it causes no pollution. It is free to use. Is that clear? So it may be an environment friendly energy resource because it may serve as a substitute for fossil fuels like petrol, diesel, kerosene and so on. I have taken up a reactivity series of metals earlier also. That is, metals are arranged in the series in the decreasing order of their reactivity. Is that clear? So the most reactive metal being the potassium and the least being the silver. Here this is for non-metal, this we don't include in this. This is the reactivity series which you have done. So metals lying above hydrogen in the reactivity series are more reactive than hydrogen. Or hydrogen is also placed over here, although it is not a metal. Just because it has a tendency to lose electrons, it is placed in the reactivity series of metals. That is, all the elements which are placed above hydrogen in the reactivity series, they tend to displace hydrogen from its compounds, like water and acids, to form hydrogen gas. Is it clear? So the first element you can see is potassium, followed by sodium, and you can see where the position of hydrogen is, just above copper, silver and gold and platinum. Is it clear? Then preparation of hydrogen by the action of water and acids on metals. Now there are, as you move down the reactivity series, the ease with which the metals will react with water will, of course, it will increase, that is it will decrease. That means for the metals which are higher up in the activity series, for instance potassium, sodium, calcium, they tend to displace hydrogen or react with water even when it is cold, and the reaction is exothermic. That is, lot of heat is generated. So you can see in this figure, you can see these fumes coming out. So when metals like sodium, potassium, calcium react violently with water, this violently means a lot of heat is generated. You can hear that sound, that a fizzing sound, and a lot of heat is generated, and hydrogen gas is produced. You can see in this reaction, the reaction is exothermic and energy is liberated in the form of heat, and in this process metal hydroxides are produced. Is that clear? So NaOH, KOH and calcium oxide. Then as you move down the reactivity series, what happens is that they need water which is at higher temperature, then only the reaction will take place, otherwise it will not. So some metals like magnesium do not react with cold water. They react with boiling water to produce hydrogen gas. You can see in this equation, this water should be boiling, otherwise the reaction will not take place. So, and what is produced? Not the hydroxide but metallic oxide. You can see in all of them, whether it is magnesium oxide, aluminium oxide, zinc oxide, or when it is ferric oxide, when we will be talking about the water at much higher temperature, that is in the form of steam. So magnesium reacts when the water is in boiling, and when aluminium, then you move down further the reactivity series, metals like aluminium, zinc, iron, all these react with steam. They do not react with boiling water or cold water, but they react with steam. So metals, they react with steam to produce hydrogen gas. So metallic oxides are formed during the reaction. Is it clear? You can see that metallic oxides are formed during the reaction, that is MgO, magnesium oxide, aluminium oxide, zinc oxide or iron oxide. And the speciality of this reaction between iron and steam is that the reaction is reversible. You can see a double-headed arrow like this, that is when the reaction is taking place between iron and steam, because the reaction is reversible. That is, as soon as the water is cooled down or the steam is cooled down, then the reaction is reversed back to form the reactants again in the form of iron and water. Next method of preparation is by the action of dilute acids on active metals. The second method of preparation is by the action of dilute acids on active metals. Again, metals like magnesium, zinc and iron, they react with dilute acids. Example like dilute hydrochloric acid and dilute sulfuric acid. And what do they liberate? They liberate salt and hydrogen. For the first reaction, you can see the magnesium and hydrochloric acid, the reaction between them gives magnesium chloride and hydrogen gas is liberated. Similarly, the reaction with sodium and zinc and iron, all of them giving the corresponding salt and hydrogen gas is liberated. Is it clear? So, why don't we use dilute nitric acid? It is not used in the preparation of hydrogen from metals just because it is a strong oxidizing agent. What do you mean by an oxidizing agent? Oxidizing agent are substances which tend to add oxygen. Is that clear? Or reducing agents are substances which tend to remove hydrogen. Here we are talking about an oxidizing agent. So, nitric acid adds oxygen. So, we don't use it. It oxidizes hydrogen and forms water. That means it is adding oxygen to hydrogen and it will form water instead of hydrogen gas. That is why we don't use nitric acid. And it gets reduced to any of the nitrogen oxides. Is it clear? That is N2O, NO or NO2. And we use dilute hydrochloric acid and dilute sulfuric acid. We don't even use dilute concentrated sulfuric acid in the preparation because it gets reduced to sulfur dioxide. Here you can see this gets reduced to sulfur dioxide and again forming water. Then concentrated HCl is also not used in the preparation, only dilute HCl is used just because it gives hydrogen chloride gas as a volatile impurity along with hydrogen. That is, hydrogen chloride gas will be evolved and we won't be able to make out easily which gas is which. So, volatile impurities means in the form of vapors, in the form of fumes that will be evolved. So, this is the second method of preparation and the most important method, that is the laboratory preparation of hydrogen. So, in the laboratory preparation, what do we take? It is prepared again by the action of acid on metal like HCl or dilute sulfuric acid. And which metal do we take in this is zinc granules. Is that clear? We take zinc granules in this and not any other metals. And we take zinc granules only just because it contains traces of copper as impurity which acts as a catalyst. Catalyst I have told you, and a positive catalyst is the catalyst which tend to increase the rate of a reaction. So, we here in order to prepare hydrogen, what all things we need zinc granules, we need this is the conical flask or a flat bottom flask, then a trough is used. Is it clear? So, these are the various things that are used, that a 2-hole rubber stopper. This is the 2-hole rubber stopper over here, so that two things can be inserted. One is this thistle funnel which you can see, another is the delivery tube. Is it clear? So, and this is the delivery tube and this is the thistle funnel through which acid will be dropped. Then a gas jar, this is the gas jar, this is a beehive shelf. Is it clear? This is a trough which is containing water. Here at the bottom of this jar is a beehive shelf. So, we take a few zinc granules in a clean flat bottom flask and fix a rubber stopper on the mouth of the flask. This is the rubber stopper and we place a thistle funnel. And through the other we have a delivery tube. And other end of the delivery tube we have beehive shelf placed and the water taken in a trough. Is that clear? So, what do? We pour dilute sulfuric acid through the thistle funnel until all the zinc granules are covered with the acid. Is that clear? This should be the position, otherwise whatever hydrogen gas will be evolved should touch the surface of the acid. Then what happens when the zinc and this sulfuric acid react? A vigorous reaction, a reaction which you will see that lot of heat is generated. and you will see bubbles coming out. Effervescence will take place, and bubbles of hydrogen gas as seen rising up from the surface of the zinc granules. So allow the first few bubbles of the gas to escape as they contain air. Is that clear? Then now invert a gas jar completely filled with water over the beehive shelf. This is the gas jar which is inverted on this beehive shelf, and hydrogen gas is collected. The hydrogen gas displaces water and gets collected in the gas jar. This method of preparation or collecting hydrogen gas in the gas jar over the beehive shelf is called as the downward displacement of water. Is that clear? So, why it is collected by this method we will discuss in the next session, inshallah. Allah Hafiz, revise this.